right, and welcome back to the Prometheus Afterthoughts podcast, the podcast where we talk to the most recent boot. And today, that is Bloody. Bloody, how you doing today?
I'm doing so good, Casey. Thank you.
Yes. So, before we talk to you, I would like to actually see the real star of the show. So, where's Humphrey?
Humphrey, he's literally right behind me. Look, you
I
can
just
see
see
his
his
devilish
eyes.
eyes.
Oh, that's
Oh,
great. Oh man, what an icon.
yeah,
So
icon.
let's get down to the real stuff here. So
Yes.
you I don't think it's a lie to say that you have been the biggest character of the series so far. I mean, with a name like Bloody, what were we really expecting anything less? So before I get into like any sort of questions I have, let's hear about your experience on the game. Let's hear about your thoughts on your edit in the show and maybe anything we talked about in the podcasts.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. First off, I just wanted to say thank you to you, of course, all of production. I mean, what a cool game. I'm obviously a fan, but it's been such a joy to kind of watch the episodes back. I'm a huge fan of the Elder System. I thought that was an incredible twist. I usually play Discord games, which averages an age of like 15 to 18. So I swear, like playing with people who are older than me is not a common occurrence. And especially women who are older than me. I mean, it was really cool. So appreciate that. That being said, game as a whole, I mean, obviously I would have loved to win. I think I made that very apparent. I mean, we were just talking sidebar on my intro and the whole interview. I think I probably came on very strong, and that's because I'm a strong person, and you see that in the episodes. And I mean, I'm used to Discord games, so I think it's been said, but this was my first video org and a mini at that. So rapid pace. I'm used to having like 24 hours to kind of feel out a vote, and that's not something that you really get the opportunity for in something like Prometheus. But that being said, I mean, such an incredible experience, incredible people. And gosh, how do you do this? Where do I even start? I will say my name being Bloody, it's so funny because I was prepared for anyone to ask me why my name was Bloody. And literally, truthfully, years ago, I was making a gamer tag, and my gamer tag at the time was Bloody Uterus because I thought it would be funny. You said I could go uncensored.
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine.
So my gamer tag was Bloody Uterus, which was a joke because it was like, oh, it would be funny, like it's like threatening, but it's also feminine. And so when I came onto Discord, which is where I kind of started my org career, I was Bloody Uterus for like a couple months, and people would shorten my name out of kindness, I think, and just call me Bloody. And then from there, I just shortened it. And it's actually worked out pretty well, at least on Discord, where like I'll have like Brits or like anyone from the EU who loves to say the word bloody. We immediately link up. Didn't happen in this game, but
We had two
yeah,
Brits too.
I know. And both of them weren't on my original team. But yeah.
Yeah, I do remember, now that you say it, I do remember that you had told me that prior. We obviously interviewed you when you first applied. You had one of the longest interviews at like 40 minutes, maybe like a little bit over 40 minutes. So
Sorry.
yeah. Oh, no. Don't say sorry. The Discord people are very interesting who have applied
Oh
between
yeah.
2 and 3. So no, it was a very interesting 40 minutes. But yeah, I mean, as we had said, because Colin and I both talked about you in the preseason podcast, you were definitely like our winner pick. We knew you'd be a big personality. I gave the certified fresh grade A, Casey stamp of approval. You delivered everything that we thought you would and more. But
Except
yeah,
the win.
except the win. Yeah. So. But I mean, part of that I think definitely has to come with the fact that like you came into the game with the name Bloody. So like one thing
Yeah.
I'm curious about is why did you choose in a video org to continue with the name Bloody over your actual name?
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if Tiki has similar feelings about this. From what I recall of season one, I remember him kind of talking through why he went by Tiki, and for me, that's who I am online.
Mhm.
That's who I am in games, especially. And it's this weird kind of like euphoria of like having like a personality or like a sense of yourself in an online space that I quite enjoy. It also honestly makes it easier for me to compartmentalize all of the bullshit that I have to do in these games. I'm genuinely kind of like a pretty easygoing person in real life. And then I don't know if these games bring out the worst of me, but I guess for that reason, it's just something that I've always carried with me. Especially on Discord. No one goes by their name on Discord. Like you don't even go by your name on Discord. And it's just kind of funny how I think once you translate that into something where it's like real people who are communicating to each other, it kind of throws people off, I would assume. But for me, that's who I am. It's probably my truest form of myself, is Bloody. But outside of that, I could totally see how someone's like, okay, who's this bitch who keeps talking about season one, who's named Bloody, and seems pretty loud. That's got to be kind of an aggressive way to start the game.
Yeah, I mean, with that too, in the beginning of the game, let's talk about him for a second. Jeff called you out like
Yeah.
right in the beginning, which it's funny. Jeff is not very in tune with these types of things. It was his first org. He only really watched The Circle. But when that episode aired where he called you out, we were actually on vacation together at the time. And
That's so funny.
my cousins were watching as well, which if anyone doesn't know, Jeffrey's my cousin. So all of my cousins, we had watched that episode together while we are like at the beach, and they're all cracking up and they're like, Jeffrey, why did you do that? And still to this day, he's confused. He doesn't understand like that that was like not good potentially for his game and also your game. And everyone was just like, dude, you blew up her spot.
Okay, but let's also talk about how Tracy did the same thing the round before. Like,
True.
this is the problem, right? Because I'm a likable person. I'll give them that. But I do think that there's something so funny about how, and genuinely, I get that Tracy wasn't trying to throw me onto the bus. I wrote down what she said. She said, "Oh, Tracy picked me first, obviously, in that first episode, and said she looks like someone that knows her shit." And then Jeffrey in episode 2 picked me to sit out in this hypothetical scenario that he made up, and said, I feel like you're on your game and you're one of the more threatening players. Verbatim what he said, which again, I don't disagree. I think it's very flattering, but it was kind of one of those moments where it's like both of these high impact moments of just the entirety of both teams sharing a space. In the second episode, we're about to go into competition, and it's like, come on, man, what did I do? I mean, I did a lot, but like, what did I do? I appreciate him, and I appreciate his eye. Of course, but yeah, at the time it was like, holy shit.
Yeah. So it's a lot of kind of all at once. I mean, it's just within like 2.5 hours time. So
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it didn't seem to impact your game at all day one, but day two definitely was a whole different story.
Yeah, well, and that's something that I think a lot when watching back the episodes is really clarifying, by the way. Like there are some things that I definitely kind of internalized coming out where I was like, okay, I should have, like, first and foremost, I should have solidified connections that I had from day one and day two, and kind of started, like, I remember there was one game where I was like, oh, well, I can say this safely. I have no final two. That was a mess up. Like I should have had a final two by then. I should have had at least something going, but I really didn't. I had a lot of loose kind of connections. But that being said, day one, I actually am really proud of how I showed up. I told you in the interview, like, I was here to play a highly visible game. That's how I play. Like, people are gonna notice me that, like, I'm wearing leopard print. Like, like I'm gonna be kind of a staple. But usually I am able to do that with a low threat level. And I think day one, I was able to kind of at least have a general idea of where votes were. I mean, a lot of times no one really had an idea, but I was at least able to vote correctly every time. And I was able to forge pretty great connections, obviously with Aaron and with Michael, or as people are calling him Brady. Who's Brady? And then Antonio, which we'll get into, I'm sure, but Antonio being someone that I know from Discord as Mimo, like completely different. But I think that where I started strong on day one, come day two, I quickly realized, wow, like, meanwhile, this whole time we were sending, was it the Iran tribe? Yeah, we were sending the Iran team into the temple over and over again. And they're looking at our team and they only really get snippets. And what they've heard so far is that I'm this threatening player. They've heard that I know my shit. They see that I'm doing well in challenges. And I think I completely underestimated how much I had kind of boogeymaned myself. And then obviously we get into day two and you immediately see the effects of that. And you immediately see the outcome of that kind of first challenge where I'm named for everything, good and bad. But it's never good to be named in a challenge like that. And especially like consistently named. So I think I said this in my confessional, I knew I was going to get heat, but I didn't realize how much I had fucked up from that point. And I think, honestly, I started day two with my back against the wall, which is not necessarily a good place to play, especially from a longevity standpoint.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Well, there's two things with it. One, I mean, I remember when day one was finished, some of us were talking, especially me and my brother, we lived together. I mean, we were definitely, and I wish I would have actually said this during Louise's Afterthoughts podcast as well, but like
Louise,
you and Louise, we were like fangirling over, we're like, one of them's winning it. We don't know who, but one of them's going to win it. And then it, like, the craziest twist of events was that Louise ended up being first boot. And then every single time you receive votes until you were finally gone, which very much reminded me, which my second point is very much reminded me of kind of how season one went in a sense.
Yeah.
You have the other teams who are kind of just looking at another player, and for the one team in season one, it was Colin. Everyone was looking at Colin as the figurehead. And then the other team, it was Lauren. And in Lauren's case, because there was that turn of votes, Lauren made it to the end and won.
Yeah.
So like it could have very easily turned out that way for you as well. But it's just crazy. We were like, I mean, we still loved your game, but we were super excited.
I know. Well, and that's the funny thing too, is I even start off that confessional day two saying like Louise was really cool. I got to talk to Louise last night. But at the end of the day, when you're hearing that your name is thrown out, like, and I can't remember, that was a blackout round, right? And I'm basically in a video with Ben for the whole round. I don't know how that happened. These rounds, I swear, for anyone who hasn't played, go so fast. I mean, literally, you could tell me it was 20 minutes. You could tell me it was 2 minutes. I literally don't know how long the rounds were, but they felt lightning fast. And coming out of that, it's like, oh my God, well, clearly I know where the other side is voting, but I have no clue what our consensus was. And if I don't know, probably someone else on my team doesn't know. And then it's like, okay, well, who do I put up as the other name? Because I have to name someone else if it's not me. And I thought really hard about it. I'm like, okay, well, I could do Jenny, but like if I'm ganging up on Jenny, I swear I would look like such a trash person. I don't know why. Like she just is so sweet, and I do think that I could have kind of buckled her, but I was really worried about kind of like the negative connotations of that. And then there's Ben. I could totally go after Ben, but Ben won Elder. Like Ben, we're also dealing at like I think we had like a guy deficit at that point, or we were just about, and I really felt like
women definitely had the majority.
Yeah, and I really felt like that was going to be a narrative in day two, that like women were going to be like banding together, and and so at the risk of like guys already kind of coming together and being like, oh, let's stand together as men. Like I wanted to kind of protect myself against, I don't know what's happening. And then Jocelyn was elder. Like I literally looked at Louise and I was like, dang, I really like her, but you know, if you're going between someone named Bloody, who is clearly like playing this game really hard, I need to match fire with fire. I need to find someone who has kind of the same kind of strategic kind of archetype, I guess. And Louise felt so similar to me, you know, which is so good. I agree. I think it would have been so cool to work with Louise, especially watching the episodes back. It's like, shit, like we are so kind of simpatico. I also love hot dogs. And so it's like I don't know. Yeah, it could have been a great duo.
Yeah. One other thing that I definitely had a note I wanted to talk about was and I actually didn't know this happened till I reviewed the footage, but I had no clue you had internet issues the round you went out.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Or maybe I did. Maybe someone in production said something.
At some point I came back to, I guess, like the main hangout.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then I think it was you. It was like, is everything okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm having trouble. And it wasn't even internet issues. That's the worst part. It was I played it on my work computer, which is my main computer. It's what I'm using right now. But it was an old Mac. I've since gotten an upgrade, due in part to Prometheus, because I was like, this sucks. I got some kind of weird error, which was like, your disk space is run out. And then suddenly my computer crashed. And then next thing I know, I'm just like messaging, like, I don't even know how many people, like probably 2 people, like, hey, my internet or my computer, and just desperately trying to get back online.
Yeah, I think for me, when I remember that now, and I also remember it because obviously I edited the episode and whatnot. But like, I think for me, like when I'm in the main room, I'm by myself, I'm prepping. Yeah. So whatever in that instance, I might have even been, I was either prepping for the temple or I was prepping for the next challenge.
Yeah.
You know, so for me, I probably didn't actually realize what was going on. And I mean,
totally.
We're talking in production. So like, I don't think I really truly realized it until I reviewed the footage. But I don't like, I don't know. I can't really say for certain. I don't think that would have really affected things. I think people were just like, this is now the time.
What I really needed to do was I'm trying not to cuss as much. I really needed to win a challenge, you know, like I really needed to win a challenge. And I think of like, what would have happened if I won that cup stacking challenge? If I had just realized the strategy of stacking 7 cups up quicker, like, which by the way, I looked like such a dumbass for like the first 2 minutes of this competition. But I like, if I just realized how to do it, I genuinely think like I could have won. Then if I win, I clinch. I believe Antonio can bring in Jocelyn. Suddenly we have momentum to possibly get someone else out. I mean, and that's wishful thinking, right? And I of course, I don't know kind of the dynamics of what happened in the last episode. It feels really ominous, like there was some kind of agreement that was made. And so I don't know the extent of that, of course, but I do think obviously I would have been safe for another round. So they would have had to figure out someone else, and that gives me time to build connections.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. What if it would have been a very interesting scenario to see play out, but unfortunately that was your time.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I think especially since Antonio would have literally been the next, I would say, threat.
mhm.
Antonio or Jocelyn. Um, I, I, and this is the funny thing too, and you've talked about this, but like the fact that I had such a high threat level without really winning a goddamn challenge on my own is hilarious and speaks to how bad I was playing. But like, it's so funny to me because I do think if I had just won one challenge, I think I was worried about winning challenges at first because I'm like, oh God, like God forbid I win a challenge. And now I'm justifying this weird high threat level I have. But I really need to just clinch a challenge.
Yeah. I think for you, it would have been a situation, if I had to guess, it would have been like you need to win challenges when you need to win them.
Yes. Yeah. And no
I
more, no
mean,
less.
yeah.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
completely.
I mean, I still think like you are a good player, obviously. You're good socially. You have the strategic mind. You are a good player, but it's just unfortunate your threat level was
Yeah.
already like
Yeah.
sky high in the beginning of the game, and
Yeah.
it just kind of never stopped increasing.
Yeah, and especially
So,
on these rounds that go so fast and get so kind of clunky, when you hear a name, you're like, "Oh, that's the name." And how easy is it to just continually vote for the person who's already getting votes? No harm,
yeah.
no foul. Like if you're on the wrong side of it, it's like whatever, water under a bridge. Like how many people double crossed me, Like I
Yeah.
don't get. But it was an uphill battle.
So one other thing I was just thinking about was, and after this you could say whatever
Yeah.
more you have notes on, because I know you do have notes on. So what, like, I can't wait to actually ask Antonio this, but what did you like a little bit more about what you thought about his lie of claiming your vote? Because like in my mind, if I were Antonio, I would have figured that I was actually in like a good position to just be able to say, oh, yeah, I voted with everyone else. And I don't think anyone would have questioned Antonio. So it's just like crazy that Antonio is like, oh, I voted for you, bloody. And it was for this reason.
I this is the hard part because I know they're going to watch this. We are birds of the same feather. I think we love drama, whether it benefits our game or not. And I'm sure it started strategic, but I genuinely scratch my head on what that did to benefit them. Because I don't I definitely didn't buy the lie. Obviously, some people did, and that was to the detriment of I think them because he was basically protecting CJ by that point, which is weird. And I don't know. It kind of made me scratch my head a bit. Because
Yeah.
if there's anyone that would forgive you for voting wrong, it would be me. Like him and I have a pre-existing connection. So it's like, yeah, oh, you voted wrong. Obviously, you don't want me out, but you thought that's where the vote was going. Like that's good to know, and let's work past it. But like it was such a weird non-starter where suddenly I'm being fed this lie, and I'm like, okay, why are you telling me this? It's weird.
Yeah. So I guess on that note, do you have any more juicy notes about the podcast, your edit, anything like that?
Um, I'm looking. Oh, the spicy exit.
Oh my God. How did I forget that? That is one of the number one things I wanted to ask you. What was that?
Bring my Jocelyn headphones just for the occasion. I I don't know. Like you get so flustered in these, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I literally think after that exit, then you and I are talking, and you said this, and the camera is off, but I was crying or whatever.
Mhm.
I get so emotional in these games, which is obviously a weakness in some instances, but could be a strength maybe. I I I think that I'm just looking at these people and I'm like, okay, I get it. Like this was honestly the best. I mean, and people have been screaming this at their computers for like every time you're doing an afterthoughts or every time you're doing kind of a Casey needs a co-host. It's like, why haven't they got her out yet? Um, so I got it. I totally got it. And I just wanted to acknowledge, like, I respect it. Like, thank you guys. It's been genuinely a joy to play. And then I'm looking at Jocelyn and I'm like, well, but I don't know this bitch. Like this beautiful woman, by the way. Like, and she's so cool. And like, since the season, like obviously we've chatted on group chat. I've just found out yesterday she's in Discord and played one of Antonio's orgs. So that was kind of funny to find out. But I don't know. It was one of those moments where I'm looking at everyone. I'm like, oh, this is so sweet. Parting thoughts. And then I'm looking at Jocelyn. I'm like, we literally never talked. And and at which now watching the episodes, I'm like, well, of course we didn't talk. Like she had other folks to talk to. And clearly she's still in the game. So she played a good game, like compared to me. But like it was one of those moments where at the time, I think I was just frustrated because I'm like, this person was completely useless to me. What I didn't self-reflect on in that moment was maybe because she didn't have any use for me. But I don't know. I like no hard feelings. I at least on my end. But like I also thought it. I don't know. I think things in my head and then they come out of my mouth, and I and I need to find that filter in between them. But that's just how I felt.
Anything else, or because
I know. I was looking. Okay. I just wanted to quickly throw a shout out to Lauren. Obviously, like Lauren gave me a lot of permission in this game. Season one, Lauren. I got to see what a very highly visible, highly kind of brutal, competitive person, and especially like a femme kind of like person playing this game could look like. And I could see the success of that. And I think coming into this game, it gave me a lot of confidence and a lot of ability to really kind of throw myself around. Obviously, I could have probably gone with like a better name than Bloody, but other than that, I think it honestly made for a much more fun game. And I'm of the mind that if I'm winning, I want to be having fun still. I think obviously there, what was it? The cash prize was like $200. It's like no joke. And
yeah,
obviously like we were taking time out of our weekend. Like it was like President's Day weekend or something. Like I had extra time on my hands and I'm using it to log into Zoom for like 9 hours a day. Like obviously like all of us came to play, but like I think it really gave me a lot of permission to have the most fun possible. And I think I truly had a blast. So obviously thankful and appreciative.
all right. Anything else before we conclude this?
Um, no. I think
Is
that's
there
it.
some?
I have thoughts, but I can't speak them until the reunion.
Yes, we. A lot of people have messaged me.
Yeah.
They've definitely got thoughts. So
Well, and I'm so excited. Like obviously I can't speak on it, but like there's still a lot of game to be played. And I only saw what I saw from the sticks, and I cannot wait to see the final episodes.
all right. So you heard it here. Thank you, Bloody, for coming on. Thank you for everyone for tuning in. I just want to say one of my favorite days of the week is TikTok Sunday. So if you don't follow Bloody, if you don't follow Bloody, go follow Bloody. You can find her handle in anywhere in the game, really. Those TikToks are premium,
Love
really
it.
good. But yeah, go check out TikTok Sunday. And on that note, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and have a good night.
Good night.